Morning. Hopefully everyone is well, wherever you are. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat here, Monday the 19th. It's nice and crisp here today. A bit of a shout out to anyone who's in lockdown. Hang in there, stick with it. Good morning. Good morning, Michelle. Morning, James. Morning, Alison. A few of you guys flying in there today. Trying a new system here, so hopefully it's coming through clear. I haven't worked out how to fly the comments in and show you guys on screen at this second, but I think I'll do that. I'll be able to work that out sometime soon. So hopefully you're all awesome and well. Hardik, good morning, Arnie. Good morning, Jeff. Jay, good morning. Good to see you, mate. Hopefully everyone has got a nice fresh coffee wherever you are in the world. Everything's warming up now, which is great. Welcome back to those who are regulars, who are coming and listening in each morning. The Wealth Coffee Chats, around about 8 o'clock each day. Working days. Hopefully we keep being able to do them on the work days, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., getting together. If anyone's new, give us a shout out in the chat. Welcome along. Good to see you here if you're new. Thanks for joining us. Jason Witten's my name. I've been property investing over 20 years and coaching property investors across Australia and New Zealand over 18. And along the way, paid attention, learned a few things. So each morning get a chance to share them with you guys. For those who are in the mentoring, remember tonight we have our Brisbane Olympics special on tonight. We are going to dive deep into the Brisbane market tonight, and we're going to really uncover some interesting things about why we think the Brisbane market and the Olympics and the run we're having right now is going to absolutely rocket Brisbane to new levels. So make sure you are registered for that one, gang. If you haven't already, you guys in mentoring and getting the coaching, this one's going to be an absolute cracker tonight. And I'm going to interview an Olympian tonight, an ex-Olympian or a past Olympian, gold medal winner. And I'm going to do that live for the Wealth Faculty podcast, my podcast, Wealth Faculty. And we're going to have a good time. So hopefully you guys can dial in and join us tonight. Sam's going to go through the Brizzy market and what's going to happen. And I'm going to interview and we're going to talk about the Olympics coming up in, I think it's 2030. But there you go. Anyway, gang, we might kick off this morning's conversation, this morning's chat. And I want to talk to you guys about what do we do? What do you do? What do we do when we run out of borrowing power and buying power? Because it's pretty normal. It's pretty natural. That does happen often, and it happens at different times for different reasons in your investing career. So, let's talk about what that might be and the things that we can do. Sometimes there's not solutions to fix it. Sometimes there is, but sometimes we need to think outside the square and make sure if you're in that acquisition mode or consolidation mode, we think, or even lifestyle mode, we think about what are we doing? Our job is to, keep things rolling. So, what now? What happens now when our borrowing power, our buying power, we get our properties, over the period of time. Oh, let's do this. Over a period of time, and we run into some challenges or some problems. And you guys have seen this. I use this all the time because I think everybody needs to remember this is how we're doing it. We're creating a model that we can follow when it comes to the process of building our property portfolio. And let's say we're charging along and we've got 3 good little investment properties, and we run into a brick wall, we run into a challenge, we run into some sort of, lending issue, whatever that might be. You run out of buying power, you run out of borrowing power. What now? What do we do? As we have a look at this section here. Well, I'll tell you what we do in the acquisition stage, gang. The acquisition stage, the process we need to make sure we have a look at is pretty straightforward and simple, because the number one thing in this stage of buying power and borrowing is the idea of getting your income up. And sometimes we think about, what do we got to do with the property? The property's got to do something. No, what has to happen, gang, is your income has to go up. Now, it's income up is much better, much easier than expenses down. Okay, so in this acquisition stage, for you as an individual, and I've spoken about this before, you and your partner, whatever that might be, incomes are important in the acquisition stage. Your personal job income is the number one thing, okay? Income up, and across the two of you, anywhere between 30 to 50K of income increase will get you that next property, okay? Depending on a few little bibs and bobs, obviously, but your income is the most important thing to make sure it goes up in value. Because, gang, listen, at the end of the day, you're expecting the properties to go to work, and all of us, when we start out our property investing, we're thinking, all right, well, when I'm successful at this, I'm going to have some choices. I might work 3 days a week, 2 days a week, not at all. That's fine, but that's not the case right now. Right now, our jobs is to get our incomes up, is to get as much cash put aside and create some financial activity as we go along. Now, listen, income's up, and also make sure we have a look at our tax deductions and variations. Okay, make sure deductions. Make sure we're all over that like a rash. Make sure we get all of that money back. And third, but not least, we need to create more deposits. Now, that comes from you saving some cash if you can, putting money in that offset account. Also, your property is growing in value. There's not a lot you can do at this stage with your properties if they're brand new. Now, if they are an older property, there's some things we can do at this stage. I would renovate the property. Okay, if you've got a spare amount of capital, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, if the properties are older and they need a freshen up, that can get your rents up for you. Okay, so down here, if we're talking about the property itself, we were talking about you a moment ago. We're talking about the property. Well, let's renovate the property. Let's fix that property up. Okay, as we go. Number two, we might get the rents up. Okay, you might be able to increase the rents now you've renovated that property. And so that in this acquisition stage, there's a few things you can go and do, but it's not as straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of tricky stuff at this point in time. Now, that is on the assumption it's your buying power, it's your income that's run out of steam, okay? Run out of steam. Now, some of you might be sitting there, that's income. That's the income bracket right there. Some of you might be sitting there and say, it's not income, Jason. I've got truckloads of equity, or I've even got some, cash, but I can't borrow to get to the next one, okay? I can't borrow to get to the next one. If that's you, if this is you here, if that's you, in that sort of equity cash position, then the idea is that you can do a joint venture or partner up with someone else who's got the borrowing power to buy a property. Okay, and that's where you guys in the mentoring program, you guys get access to our exclusive joint venture and partner deals. So myself and Sam do the borrowing, and you can participate in some of those deals, potentially if they're appropriate and at the right stage for you as we go along in that sort of space. So, there's a couple of things at that stage you can go and make sure you check back in and find out what's going on with your portfolio as you go along. Now, there's a few things. I think I saw a couple of things in the mentoring post last night. There's, when your kids turn 18, they don't become dependents anymore. I do know we've got many clients I got one client of mine who lives with their parents. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds, but it's quite a large place, and they kind of live in the second house in the large place, and they don't have to pay any rent while they're there. And that's been magic for them. They've been able to unlock their ability to borrow. So they've gone on to borrow and buy another 3 investment properties because of that maneuver, that situation. Whatever it looks like, if you can reduce expenses significantly, that's great. But what normally happens is your incomes need to go up a little bit as you're going along. Now, over here in consolidation, this is where mostly I see the equity issue. All right, equity issue, and certainly joint ventures and doing deals on your properties are pretty easy types of add value to your income that you can do. But let's have a look at a couple of other things at this stage, which I would sort of say adding value, adding income, adding servicing to your cash flow is something that we can do at consolidation stage. Number one, the easy one again, reno/add value. Okay, now when I say add value, I'm talking about significant adding value. Now I do know a lot of investors have older properties that can at some point in the future be either totally knocked over, bowled over, and brand new house put on there, maybe even a duplex, maybe dual income, 2 properties. I know a number of clients that could do that. I know a number of clients in New South Wales. There's the granny flat legislation in New South Wales for maybe about $120,000, $150,000. You can put a total 2-bedroom granny flat on your property in New South Wales if you've got enough room, and you can add a whole new income stream. Now, if you invested in a brand new property, a brand new house for $150, and then you ended up renting that for $350, $400, that is significant cash flow, significant income for you as you go along. So renovate, add value. Again, when we get to a certain stage of our property portfolio and we run out of the ability or the interest to borrow more and buy more direct properties, these are the sorts of things we look back into the properties we have and we say, right, what can I do to those properties to improve those properties to make them better? Because now they've still got to go the distance. They've still got to go another 15, 20, 30 years when it comes to producing income and being attractive to tenants. You've got to look after them. Again, in this stage, JVs, certainly you can do the equity arbitrage maneuver right now, borrowing $100,000 or $200,000 against your portfolio at 3% and getting 15% return on it. That's a no-brainer every day of the week. Absolute no-brainer. Now, the risk is a little bit higher there, so you don't want to be putting millions in. That's where you've got to have a bit of a look at. And the other one, which some of you guys might be surprised with, is equity arbitrage when it comes to other investments, which is sort of some stocks and some potential shares. Okay. Now, I'm a big fan of your money keeping moving, gang. Now, if you've got access to capital and cash, if you can get $200,000, but you can't borrow another $500 to buy another property, that $200,000 should be moving, should be working. And if you want to know, how to do that better and do that well, then, get some education in and around that. But, that property sitting in equity makes you nothing, makes you zero, okay? And it certainly something that I think's worth considering and understanding. Money's job is to move and be working all the time as we go along. So hopefully that makes sense, gang. Tracy's got a question here. What happens after depreciation reduces and we can't do tax variations anymore? Good question, Trace. Good question. You've achieved something which is good, which means you've owned a property for at least 10 years. Your property, that property is 10 years old or more, I would say. You might not have owned it for 10 years. But what do you do? Well, this is what you do, Trace, as you go along. What happens, gang, and I love my little timeline here as we go. What happens is your values over time, call it 15, 20 years, should be going up. Your expenses, which includes your interest is your major expense, should go down, okay? And the depreciation, your depreciation would certainly follow along this and then, drop off in some way, shape, or form like that. So there's a nice little colourful line. So when your depreciation starts to drop off, then at some point your loan-to-value ratio, Tracy, your loan-to-value ratio at this point here should be a lot lower. Let's say call it 50%, 60%, whatever it is, because your values are up here and your loans or your expenses are down there, okay? So what I would say, Tracy, as you're going along, if you need or you want to tax minimize at that point, then every other year when your loan-to-value ratio drops below a certain level, this is one of my little personal rules. When your loan-to-value ratio goes below 50%, which means my values have increased or I've paid off more of my debts, then I will buy a new property. I'll buy a new property so I can get some depreciation. So each time. So I'm keeping my loan-to-value ratio around that 50% mark, and I'll just keep acquiring, Tracy. So let's say some of those older properties run out of depreciation, but now I'm buying new properties, and those new properties get in as we go along. So Trace said it's 4 to 5 years old, 3 of them, but depreciation very low now. Okay, well, did you get a proper depreciation schedule done, Trace? I'd check in on that, just make sure you've done the proper depreciation schedule. But it's very normal that depreciation goes down. Remember, if you do renovate the properties, any add value to those properties, you get to start that depreciation for that item again as you go along. So it's very normal for depreciation to go down. It's usually 7 to 10 years from it to go to maximum to minimum. Yep, there you go. Someone chucked it in there, doing a reno can boost depreciation. So maybe at some point, Tracy, in the next little bit, you might want to get your rents up, and that means maybe spending 10, 20, 30 grand on the renovation on that property. And remember, gang, you would have been saving that dollars and cents from your tax return and the other bits and pieces into that property's offset account or into an offset account allocated to that property for future renovations and fixing and stuff like that. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, gang. Don't know how long I've been waffling on this morning. I wasn't keeping an eye on the time. But there you go. It's about 20 minutes. So hopefully that was hopefully that made sense. What can you do? Get your incomes up, gang. But when and if possible, keep that money moving. Keep that money moving. Make sure it's working hard and be a little bit patient. That's for sure. All right, gang. That's it. Coffee and a chat done and dusted for today, 19th of July. Make sure you join us tonight. Mentoring's going to be awesome and fun, and I'm looking forward to that. Going to be up in Brisbane. I think we're going to sort of travel up there and do it in a good location. So it should be nice to get out of the house. All right, gang. Stay safe, stay well, and chat to you tomorrow for another Wealth Coffee Chat. Adios.